Altcoins are showing signs of life after a full week of Bitcoin rallying. The politicians printing off massive money over the past number of years, combined with the Federal Reserve policy, which hiked interest rates so fast over the past number of months, has created an unprecedented banking crisis. And people are starting to notice that fiat currencies are risky. With that in mind, we're going to look at some macro things. Then we're going to look at some specific pricing and see what's going on in the markets. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. And if you like money in crypto and you're looking for a seasoned investor take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul is an investor in crypto and many, many other markets. We do want to thank our Patreon members. We have a private Discord that only our Patreon members get access to. Also, a free Telegram group that you can join below with a fantastic community. Our admins do frequently purge the bots and we kick people that are toxic. So it does make for a first-rate community of intelligent people to join and get ideas from or bounce your ideas off of. So join the Rainmaker family. It's so easy. Now make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show, and let's welcome Paul from Definity.
It's great to be back. A week goes so fast, doesn't it? And we're into the Q2, which is incredible. So the first quarter's gone, which is again incredible. But it doesn't seem that long ago that we were discussing the crypto winter, crypto ice age, and how things were going to base out and eventually turn bullish. And then here they are, all looking bullish, but we've got a banking crisis at the same time. So it never seems to look as clear as we'd like, but that's the markets for you.
Yeah, you know, if we were a supercomputer and could take in all the information of what's happening every single day, we might be able to predict things like the banking crisis 6 months in advance, 10 months in advance, and understand how it could all correlate. But there is no computer powerful enough in the world to understand all those things. And so there is unequal information. And with that unequal information, that's part of what creates opportunity, is understanding that information before most of the world does and understanding how to operate on it. So people that are here, they're joining a good time. We're going to talk about what we're seeing in the markets and other things. But part of the reason that you can make so much money or lose so much money in crypto and other markets is unequal information.
Yeah, that's to be fair, the same aspect of all markets. And, crypto is just a new one on the block, as it were, if you excuse the pun. But it's extremely volatile and there's some great opportunities. So that's why it's attracted a lot of people. And it's why it seems to be a very cyclical thing where when things start to go down, I think you were saying yourself that during the ice age, there were fewer people who were interested, and that's exactly what you'd expect. But we talked about you have to be here every week or every month. You've got to keep an eye on the markets because they all go through these phases, whether you're trading currencies, bonds, commodities, equities, or equity sectors, whatever it might be, the markets go through cycles. And at some point your particular product will be hot and sometimes it won't be, and you just have to ride it out. But what you notice is the changes can be very fast. So before you know it, when we're knocking on the end of back end of 28,000 to 30,000, I was talking about 33,000 in Bitcoin last week, and I didn't expect it to get up here quite so quickly, but I'm not bothered that it has. It's great. I mean, bullish surprise is always nice. But what was telling us, or what was telling me, that there was something not quite right with the Fed's picture. I thought it was just that the Fed had raised interest rates too quickly and didn't allow the market to adjust. But part of the problem, certainly in the UK and perhaps with other companies, the situation with Silicon Valley Bank was that they were holding a lot of Federal Reserve paper. They were holding a lot of government bonds, and almost forced to hold it as part of their assets. And when interest rates go up from a 0.25% or virtually 0% to around a decent level of 4% percentage terms, that's a huge move. So their holdings actually completely in those markets were decimated. So if we go back to 2008, the crisis was caused by over leveraging across the board in very risky assets. Whereas on this occasion, it's not been risky assets. It's actually been what's considered to be the least risky asset of all. But the Fed have created their own problem by raising interest rates. Now, I was always saying I didn't think that they were going to raise interest rates as fast as they thought they were going to raise them, even though they've created a load of inflation, just because the effects of forcing people to hold so much paper and the effect of so much government paper being in there, and the effect of what we talked about last week was how they actually indicated that they weren't going to raise interest rates. So you force people into buying something, or not force, but you give people the wrong impression that the water is going to stay nice and warm and tepid, and then you turn the temperature up and suddenly you're boiling the frogs. And this is what's happened. So the markets had to readjust, and of course there's some big problems out there, but again, the banks are being bailed out by the authorities. So this should not go further. And it is a good argument, once again, for what crypto was created for, because there's going to be a lot of printing of money all over again. And what other way out is there? So you've got an inflation problem and you've got a banking crisis. So what's the Fed going to do? Now, we were discussing off air what they might do, and it's only going to be a couple of hours when we find out. But most likely the market thinks they're going to raise by 25 basis points in this market. It's a waste of time. But what was the point of doing that? The market knows that there's a banking crisis. If you're going to have to bail out banks, don't do anything and just wait and see. You could do 25 next month or on the next one, or do 50 on the next one if you think that you've actually let things go a little bit. But inflation was 6%, in line with expectations. If they can't work out that, and I don't often get a little bit annoyed, but if they can't work out that a banking crisis is going to cause a ripple of confidence or lack of confidence across the markets, then I don't know what they're doing in their job. So raising 25 is not a good idea, but they're probably going to do it. And so what I want to see is, how is the market going to react to this 25? Either they'll say 25, that's the end. I ain't going any higher than this. It's party time, risk on, let's go. Or we're going to be in a situation where they're going to say, okay, this is coming at a bad time. This is a big credit card bill after Christmas that I don't really want to pay. We're going to have to deal with this, get it out of the way, cut down on our spending a little bit, adjust, and then we can party. So I'm not sure whether it's effectively a speed bump. I don't think it's the big bearish collapse that everybody's talking. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are saying it's extremely bearish and it's going to ripple out, and the whole system's going to go down. I don't think we're at that point. I don't think that that's right at this stage. And I don't think the markets are signaling that either. There's a lot of positivity in the sectors that we like or we're interested in, like semiconductors and the NASDAQ, seem to be doing okay. And we're going to have a look at the charts in a minute. Meta is absolutely flying. And I've always said, I think that's a really good indication of crypto. I know it's not direct, but it's the closest thing I can see that's supporting crypto out there. And that's doing great. And then, NVIDIA, AMD, going great guns. Those things are flying. So why would those be going up unless there was some interest in this sector? Okay, it could be AI driven, but it's still technology, and crypto is a technology, and some of them are directly linked to that technology. So it might underperform the broader market, which is an expectation from a cyclical point of view for the next few years, but I don't think it's bearish quite yet. So a lot hangs on today. I mean, actually, if I'm honest, I'd much prefer this to have been on Thursday so we can find out, or at least a bit later so we can find out what happens. But joking aside, I think it could be a very interesting day. Either the market's going to go straight up and, we're going to see it. I think broadly speaking, as you can see, I'm still very bullish. So I don't think that's changed anything. It's just a question of whether this is a bit of a speed bump, as I said earlier.
Yeah. And that's exactly what's on all of our minds is, and what's the Fed decision going to be? Because, and how is it going to play out? So what's interesting, if they raise rates, and it seems like that's still their intent, Jerome Powell has, wants to show how tough he is. And so I think that he'll probably raise it 0.25%, which puts them in a position that the next time they really need to lower it 0.25%. Instead of going flat. If they go flat, then maybe they can go flat another and keep rates the same for another time or two. But if they raise it, I think they got to reverse it because they're putting even more pressure on these banks. And it's just a yield, it's just a maturity problem on these treasury notes, right? So they buy a 10-year treasury note and say they pay $1 million for it, or say it's worth $1 million, and so they pay what, like 920,000 or whatever. I guess it would be more than that because back then the interest rates were 0.2%. So they pay less than the total million because the interest rate is baked in there. So if the interest rate's 0.2%, it's got a 10-year yield before that million has to be paid back. Well, that has a value. And if interest rates go down, well, then the value of that note goes up. If interest rates go up, then the value of that goes down, and they've gone way down. And so some of these places, a lot of these banks, they went long because Janet Yellen is saying, oh, we don't see any inflation on the horizon. Even when they did see, oh, we think it's just transitory. So anybody who was looking at her thinking she was knowing what she was talking about, well, they made some bad bets. And look, their bad bets are on them. Here's the problem if all these banks fail, though, is, okay, and it's part of the problem with the banking industry, is that they're playing with other people's money. It's the same problem that Celsius had, right? So everyone is up in arms, all these regulators up in arms about Celsius and other things. But Celsius was taking in deposits and turning around and lending it out. And so they're turning around, banks are taking deposits, turning around, and because of the Frank-Dodd Act, they have to buy a certain amount of U.S. Treasuries. But U.S. Treasuries, when interest rates swing wildly, they become very volatile. And so some of these have been marked down huge numbers, and so that these banks are now upside down and insolvent by billions of dollars, all because interest rates went up so fast. Now, why did the interest rates have to go up so fast? Because all the printing of money that the politicians have been doing. So it was interesting watching a certain U.S. Senator, Karen, as Elon Musk likes to say, lighting into Jerome Powell about, you're raising interest rates so fast because of this. And Senator Karen was one of those ones that was primarily behind the spending like crazy, right? So Jerome Powell is raising interest rates as a response to that, probably gone crazy hawkish to the point that it doesn't make sense. But it's a response to all the inflation that was happening. And so now we're in this massive banking crisis. Of course, politicians don't turn around and take responsibility, especially senators or congressmen. Sometimes executives have to, but the congressmen and senators turn around and point the finger at everyone else. Well, we're in this position. What is Jerome Powell going to do? I don't know, but what it has brought is, like you mentioned, the volatility of fiat currencies, the instability of the current banking system, and people are really taking a hard look at Bitcoin and being like, oh my gosh, that is an alternative that is free of all this system. And so the use case for which Bitcoin was created back in 2008 has become glaring apparent to those that are paying good attention. And I think that's why Bitcoin's been running.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fundamentals out there, and that we can analyze, of course. But I mean, I primarily look at technical analysis. Doesn't mean I won't have a view on the markets, but I like to be driven by what the actual markets are doing, rather than listening to the press or the news flow, because you wouldn't be buying if you looked at the news flow. You'd be selling. So,
but you would always be doing the wrong thing, right? Just watch Jim Cramer every day and do what he tells you to do. And when you're out of money, be like, why? What happened? Here, let's pull up the charts. Also, we had a request from Dougie Collins. Any chance Paul could look at GBP USD? please.
Oh, right. At Cable. Yeah, sure.
After
Yeah, no
going through
problem.
the macros and the dollar, do you mind going into that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the if we start off with the dollar index, because that's a good place to start for everything. So this is a dollar basket against the major currencies. We were bullish around here and started to turn around here to bearish, and we got a very nice downward trend. What happened was the price of Bitcoin didn't move up, even though this went down. And there's not a direct correlation, as we've said before, but it was unusual that risk on was going and Bitcoin didn't move. Then we got the SBF situation. So we was like, okay, that's why it's not moving. And then it waited for a bit and then boom, Bitcoin caught up. So what's happened since then is we could see that the dollar was just getting a little too weak and risk on had just got a little ahead of itself. And so the dollar started to rally. So we were looking for a bit of a rebound here. I'm looking at this as being a head and shoulders pattern, and this is the right shoulder. So that's why I was looking for a move up to around 106.61, which it got pretty close to. Close enough to say it hit it. And then I was looking for it to reverse, and now it's starting to reverse. Now the question is this still going to hang around in this right shoulder for a bit, consolidate for a bit longer, or is it going to go straight down, take out this support here, this 101, and then collapse all the way down there? Which I think it's going to come all the way down. I think this is going to be a move that goes, perhaps all the way back down to here, back to 90 over the course of the next couple of years. I'm not expecting that soon, but I think that is the path. This is now a very nice new trend. Now, does it want to come back to this line before it does it? Maybe, but I don't think so. So I'm quite happy with the direction. And I think, again, today is quite a pivotal day. If the market sees this as the top of interest rates, which I think it is, then this should go down. So this should go down a lot and it should keep going. So I remain bullish on everything else against the dollar pretty much. So I think the dollar will go down and that will spark a rally in the rest of the risk on markets, of which, of course, Bitcoin is part of. Now, equities are part of that as well. So they're going to do well, or should do well. So looking at cable, which is here, this kind of fits the picture of what we saw. Okay, so we had, just go back a little bit. I'd like to give a bit of context to what was going on. This collapse was when our Prime Minister, Liz Truss, decided to just sort of announce to everybody that there was going to be a huge tax cut and the government were going to have to fund it by selling bonds. So, of course, sterling collapsed because we thought, what on earth is going on? This is effectively giving a huge boost to the system, but doing it at the cost of government bonds, because you'd have to print a load of bonds in order to actually, or sell a load of bonds in order to pay for it. So sterling just fell out of bed because it was really out of whack with what everybody else was doing. But this was a trend-ending move, and this is what you expect to see at the end of a trend. So the dollar was just getting too strong broadly and across the board when this happened. So it sprung down, sprung back up again, and then it's worked its way back up. And so anyone who bought into that had a really great opportunity. And as we got back to this resistance area here around 122, which is a good consolidation area, profits were taken and the market's gone sideways. Now, I think the next phase of this is that the market will go upwards again. So what I'm looking for is a break over this 124 area resistance for it to then go to this trend line. So I see this as a big reversal, and I think there's much more to go on the upside. It's just that at the moment it's consolidating. So I've even not looked that much at cable, just because I think there's a lot of other potentially more interesting markets out there. But broadly speaking, this has been in a consolidation, so it's not trending, but it should be close to trending soon. But the dollar itself, I think, is broadly going to weaken. As I said, we just got to wait for confirmation. So if we look at shall I just do a quick run through the markets and then we can look at the specific ones that people want to look at?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So if we look at the Dow, that's it's had a fairly decent short-term rally, considering that people were expecting there to be the end. I think last week we were saying it felt pretty bad, the way markets were down 500, 700 points. Then it all recovered, and it's amazing how that just looks like a normal retracement, which is what we discussed. So the Nasdaq is now looking like it is basing out. So it's managed to hold support. The Nasdaq should be the higher risk area. So the Dow 30 or the Dow should have traditional businesses in it, but the Nasdaq is obviously growth stocks. So growth stocks are really they're kind of tied to where interest rates are, because these companies need to borrow money. Then some of them aren't making any profits, and so they need interest rates to be low in order to grow, or it helps them a hell of a lot. So interest rates are very sensitive to these particular stocks. And given that there's a banking crisis, it's not really showed up on it, has it? And we've also got what we call a moving average crossover. So you've got the 200-day and the 60-day that are crossing over as we speak, which is a bullish situation. So you might see some headlines about that. I don't really go crazy about that sort of stuff. I always think the context is much more important with what the market's doing. But that looks pretty good to me. So if we look at the VIX, which is the volatility index, that's come back down. It had a big rally, came back down again. So it's into more normal territory. So not a lot to see there. Actually, let's have a quick look at Hong Kong, because I think the Hong Kong market is interesting, because what China's doing and what the outlook for Asia, I think, could drive a lot of what we've got to come in the next few years. So I think this is a massive potential inverse head and shoulders. We've just seen the edge of the right shoulder form, and this should start to go higher. So for me, I think this is a really interesting point at an interesting point in time. I think the Chinese will probably start to weaken their interest rates, or lower their interest rates, or stimulate their economy, or probably both. And so there could be more upside there. And that's also good for commodities and commodity currencies. Gold has done pretty well, but it still hasn't taken out this high, 2,075. I think it will work its way higher, and I'm bullish on both of gold and silver. But it's silver's done pretty well, but it's not done as good compared to gold, because it should really be up at $30. And in actual fact, if we go back, it should be much higher than that. It should be over 50. I think I need a weekly chart. Let's have a look at a weekly chart. See, the previous high for silver was up here at 50. Whereas it's right down here at the moment. So that's one of the reasons I've been bullish on precious metals, but slightly concerned that it's not all moving together. What we really need is everything moving together in the precious metal space. Palladium is the same problem. It's like that looks okay, but it's not that bullish. So I think we've got to be careful. But in any case, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the commodity markets, base metals certainly, and precious metals traditionally is where people would move into if they thought that risk on was coming on, or there might be inflation. Although gold hasn't really moved as far as it should have done, given the very high levels of inflation that we've got. It's done okay, but it's not shot the lights out, as it were.
I've heard that because gold is an alternative to, say, the US dollar, that the price is somewhat manipulated to keep it down through futures markets, where they can just buy up a whole bunch of shorts that then keeps the market down. And so that's why gold hasn't really realized the price it often should, because basically it is an alternative to fiat currencies. And so the U.S. government plays with some tools to keep it lower on purpose. I can't say I know that that's true. I wondered if you have any insight. Have you seen any data that might back that?
I've not seen data. I've heard it from some people that I thought were fairly credible, but by the same token, I don't really know. So it could just be one of those things that because it's not moving, people get frustrated and they want to find something to blame it on, and so they'll say it's manipulated.
The reason I bring that up is because the SEC, which has shown their cards to be very anti-crypto, at least the current head of the SEC, they approved a futures BTC ETF, but not a spot ETF. And a spot ETF is going to require them to hold Bitcoin, which can be bullish for Bitcoin and let the price swing. And, the logic behind why they said that would happen is so that, same thing, they can use it to suppress the price.
Yeah.
But an actual spot ETF, and the arguments by the SEC don't hold water. The arguments they're making as to why they can't allow a spot ETF, they say, oh, it's too risky and the price can be volatile and manipulated by outside forces. But so can the futures ETF be manipulated, because the prices between the two correlate 99.9% between the spot and the futures one. And so if that held true, their argument held true for a spot one, it also holds true for what they did approve. And so the reason for denying it, like when somebody doesn't want to tell you the real reason, they make up a reason that sounds good.
Yeah.
And the argument the SEC made was a reason that sounds good but doesn't hold water, which tells you that's not their real reason.
Yeah, reading between the lines. Yeah, I mean, I'm not following what they're saying particularly closely. But I do, obviously, from people like yourself who mention it, I do see that they're not being particularly friendly to it.
Yeah.
And so the original question about is gold being manipulated, I don't know is the answer. It wouldn't surprise me if it were, but I don't know for sure.
Right.
So even if it is, for me, I'd have to just say, look, we're playing with a manipulated market.
Which is probably a safe assumption to make in a lot of things.
Yeah. But, I also heard that Bitcoin was created. This is a theory that somebody said Bitcoin was created to suck money out of the gold market, to stop people buying gold, so to give them an alternative to suppress the value of gold. So, who knows? I don't know if that's true or not. All I know is whether something's outperforming something else. So, for example, the charts I was showing you, palladium and platinum don't seem to be performing that well. And in my analysis of a bull market, you should really get synchronization of everything within that sector. So, for example, in a downtrend, most things move down within Bitcoin, ETH, and then all the altcoins. And then when things turn up, the strongest moves first. ETH was a bit stronger, it moved first, it didn't make its low, gives you signals, and then the best loved sort of altcoins, they move. So you can see it how things move in and out. It's a bit like property, as the best properties don't fall as much because there's always willing buyers, and the more risky places that are in other areas that are just moving up because all tides, the rising tide lifts all boats. Those are the ones that actually fall faster when you get a bear market, because they're more speculative. Holiday homes, second homes, those are the ones that get sold first. So the market has a logic to it, and for me, that's more important as to whether it's manipulated. If I thought it was untradeable, then I wouldn't touch it. If there weren't enough players in it, you just need more players than you need more people
manipulating it, because when you have so much volume going on, it's really hard for any one party to manipulate it, even if they have billions.
Yeah, and it could just be that it is not what people want it to be, which is this massive inflation hedge at this stage. They could just be looking at they literally could be looking at other things. I mean, look, it could be that Bitcoin is what they want in that space. They want the ability to buy something and then be able to transmit it across the world, or not, or move to another country, go and live in Mexico. You don't have to take a load of gold with you. There's a couple of things that you might want to watch. I'll give you some media picks. There's on Netflix, there's a series called Madoff, whichever way you pronounce it, Madoff, The Monster of Wall Street. I think that was the title. But anyway, just watch that. If you go all the way through it, I remember it, and I was absolutely shocked by how the authorities dealt with the situation. And the other one is there's a series called The Gold, which is a series. It's actually a BBC thing, so hopefully it will come to Netflix or somewhere. But it's a BBC thing for the UK, which at some point may translate onto one of the platforms, and that is about the Brinks Mat heist, which was the biggest robbery in the world, where in 1983, I think it was either 3 or 4, there was an inside job. These guys went in to raid this warehouse, which was in Heathrow Airport. They thought they were going to get about £2 million worth of currency, and they found like £20 million worth of gold that they weren't expecting. And so it's what happened from that. And in the old days, you used to be able to. There was a Barclays bank that was paying out. So the money was being trafficked through this one company, and so they were sending the bars through this company, and they were selling them and putting the money in the bank account, then taking that money out as cash. And what really shocked me was that they managed to withdraw over the course of 4 months. They managed to withdraw £10 million worth of cash, like £10 million. Like one withdrawal was for £400,000 worth of cash, and they just did it. But what was the funny thing about the whole thing was the Bank of England had to create a whole load of notes just for that branch of Barclays, just for that purpose, and they all had the serial number A24 on them. So they started A24 and then the serial number, so they could trace literally all the money from the Brinks Mat, robbery via that route. And so it's a fascinating story, but it just goes to show, that shows why we have a certain amount of banking regulation. I can't imagine anybody taking out that sort of money anymore. I don't think you can. But it also shows that as part of the story, they were trying to move the gold from one country to another and going past checkpoints. So I thought that was hilarious that they were trying to do that. In an electronic age, you don't need to do that. You can just send it, click of a button, send it to someone else.
The digital gold, Bitcoin does have some properties that are superior to gold, right?
Yeah.
You can't make watches with Bitcoin, but short of that, like you can move it anywhere in the world, and you can go with a laptop or even without a laptop and just go somewhere where there's a laptop and put in your code and withdraw it, which makes it good.
So sorry, guys. I know I went a bit off topic there, but there was a reason for why I was telling you about it. Well, I'm sure you'll enjoy those two things.
We do have some time for some viewer picks, and so we're going to go in order after we hit the majors. So Bitcoin and ETH, and then we're going to jump into a few from suggestions that people put in the comments. Remember, you can put comments in what we're not able to cover today. You can put in the comments down below on this video, and we'll take up to 2 suggestions per person. You will get priority if you put the fundamentals behind what you like about that token with it. So if you'll jump into those, and then we'll jump into some of the other ones that we have queued up, and then we'll jump into some viewer picks.
Yeah, so Bitcoin's gone up a bit like the analogy of holding a ball underwater. It's just gone, straight up to the next resistance point. And we discussed this resistance point last week, which was 28,547. So bam, it's hit it, it's hit it right on the day that the Fed are going to move or not move. So it's a bit irritating, because if you were going to have a retracement, you'd have it off this level. But I still like the way this chart looks. It looks like it wants to break out. So, I'm torn. So I'm really torn. So we've got to the first level. I'm really pleased with how it's performed. And I'm not sure if we're going to get a pullback. So I've got to be honest with you. I'll tell you when I'm sure, and I'll tell you when I'm not. So we could get a pullback from here just because it's key in terms of its significance. But that goes all the way back to here. You see, June 21, the support that came there. And so that's why I'm watching this very carefully. But, this is a powerful trend, and this is quite a nice little short-term pattern. So it would not surprise me for it to move straight up. Now, you can tell me off for saying, oh, yeah, that's 2 views. You're trying to say it's bullish and bearish, and I wouldn't disagree with you. But if I were long, I'd stay there because I even if it is a correction, I think longer term this is going higher. So it really depends on what your outlook is. If you're a very short term trader, I would probably pare down positions but stay long. And then if you get stopped out on a tight stop, then we could be looking to buy it again on 25,212. That's a really good support area on a pullback. But I'd leave some on the table just in case it moves higher. And I think all of this move into, as we saw a while back, move into Bitcoin, move into ETH, then it rotates into the altcoins. So that would be a really good thing to happen. Now, ETH, we mentioned this 1720 level virtually every week, and it's finally through it. And it's not done it in style, it's just hopped above it and it's sitting around. But I do think that this is still a good development, and I'd like to see it accelerate. So the heat's come off ETH a little bit. It's strange, actually. So Bitcoin's taken the lead. I think people were saying exactly what you were saying about, they've discovered that in a banking crisis, when money gets printed, they turn to Bitcoin. I think they'll move into ETH when they're broadly bullish about, risk on opportunities. So the fear factor and potential, lower interest rates is what's doubly supporting Bitcoin at the moment. But I think ETH will move to outperform it in the coming months. Whether it's the coming weeks or not, I don't know. But I still love that 2031 level. I know it's got to get pulled towards it and eventually break it. That will create a big base. So that's my primary objective. Is what keeps keeping me on the slight bullish side of this kind of trickier part of calling it just ahead of a Fed move. But overall, it's still bullish. Long term, still bullish. It's just a question whether we go straight up or whether we correct and then go up. And I would, if you had to force me to take a view, I'd say it's going to go straight up. So you also wanted to look at the one of the majors, Cardano. So that has been interesting. It's getting more interesting. Actually, I'm going to look at it on a different chart. I'm going to look at it on this one, because the reason why I want to do that is this horizontal line is much clearer as to where it's getting drawn to. So it's broken its downward trend line, which is great, and it's consolidated. It was showing a lot of weakness ahead of the other markets. So I think that if it can get through this 40 cents level, that is where all the resistance is. That's where the big barrier is. But it's broken this downward trend line, which is a great sign. Didn't have the legs to continue this part of the trend, which is fair enough. I wouldn't have expected it to. But it's had a correction, and now it's going for it. So it's picking up volatility. It's picking up potentially in its pace. If it can swing through this resistance at 40 cents, I think it's going to look very interesting for a move up to like 75, 76, all the way back up to here, which is the next resistance point. And I know a lot of people think very highly of it. So if there was one to play catch up, I think this would be one of them. So yeah, that's kind of the majors. And sorry, slipped into one of the viewer picks that you asked for from earlier.
No, perfect. That was one of, yeah, exactly. But Cardano is a great follow right after ETH, right?
Yeah.
So I posted up a comment about there from Tommy Vesper, right? Cardano Hydra heads are firing up, and he asked my thoughts on it. So Hydra is the scaling solution that's going to allow Cardano to go from, I think it's at several thousand transactions per second, to, if it's successful, be able to go up to millions of transactions per second. And that would take Cardano to one of the fastest blockchains in the world. And so I'm excited about this. I've been excited about Hydra for a long time. And it's a sharding solution. He named it Hydra, like the multi-headed Hydra, where it could create these extra, essentially, shards that could process transactions all at the same time. And that's exciting when it goes to that, because Bitcoin really proved that this idea like blockchain could be secure, and cryptocurrency could encrypt it. The problem with blockchain was it was a really, really, really slow database and expensive to transact with once a number of people started using it. And so ETH improved on that, and that was like a second generation blockchain. So these third generation blockchains like Cardano are like, okay, how do we get the security of blockchain, but overcome these hurdles so we no longer have a really, really slow and expensive database? And so that's why these third generation blockchains are all fighting for transactions per second, and a few other factors, right? On how to be able to make it cheap, scalable, fast. And so they all had different implementations of this. Cardano took a very slow approach in their initial stages to really build it right. And so now you're seeing them add in a lot of what they had architected out 4 years ago. They're now starting to code, and their movements still seem somewhat slow, but are fast compared to a lot of other stuff that just got started right away and started programming, but didn't take the time to architect it out. So I remember 3.5 years ago to this date, like Cardano was hitting like lows. I guess it was 2000, yeah, almost 3 years ago. And Cardano was at its lows, and everybody was complaining about how slow it was and how it would never survive and blah, blah, blah. And there's so much FUD about Cardano. And it was at these really, really low lows. And from there, it went over 100x. And now with the rest of the market has gone down, but we're still seeing continuous improvements and at a somewhat steady, albeit slow pace. I'm excited about Cardano's future. So if you were to rate this as a buy, a sell, or a hold, what would you say on Cardano?
On its own, just this, I'd say it's a buy.
Awesome. For me, it's a buy too. And that, in the short term, I don't know if it's going to touch back down before taking off, but I think a lot of things are adding up to some bullishness that we're going to see a run in a lot of things. I own some Cardano, not a lot. It's probably the highest market cap token I hold, other than just a fraction of Bitcoin and a small fraction of ETH, because out of the third generation blockchains, Cardano is one of my favorites. Let's take a look at AGIX, which was a viewer pick that he wanted to look at. And we've looked at that a number of times in the past.
Yeah.
It's interesting where its price point has jumped back up to.
Yes, I believe we were bullish last time we looked at it. Correct me if I'm wrong, put it in the comments. I'm sure we said that it was, looking at this resistance level, it corrected off, and that overall it should be bullish. I think we were analyzing this consolidation against this potential pullback. But look, it's not surprised me that it's coming back up again. It's happening on this big resistance area. There is massive resistance upwards before 65 cents. So the fact that it took a couple of goes to break through it is completely understandable. It's also understandable given that it's accelerated from the end of Jan around 0.04 cents and all the way up to 27 cents. People are going to want to take some profits. So the fact that it hit this really big level is understandable that they bail out a bit, take some profits, and then stay on the sidelines again. But what I'm looking for is how it trades around the previous high. Does it come off and then just collapse down, or is it just staying near the high, getting ready for another move? So the fact that it's kind of sticky up here, wants to stay up here, is a good sign for me. So I know there's not a whole lot of data. I know there's probably on another chart or somewhere else, but this for me, I love areas like this where it's so clearly defined that the market has got resistance and it's trying to break through. So I like the fact that it's there, and I like the fact that there's good momentum behind it. So I rate it still a buy, and I would expect at some point for it to break through this resistance and then move up towards, I'd say, $1, a minimum target, and possibly more. So I like this one. If it comes back and it pulls back to support, fine. Around, we're talking percentage terms, quite big moves. but I have to go by the support points that are on the chart. Around 28, 29 cents should be good support. If it breaks below that, I wouldn't be too worried unless it takes out this area here, and then it'd be like, well, what's going on in the broader macro picture compared to this? Is it just this, or is everything taking a bit of a pullback? But overall, I'd say you got to. I would have my parachute levels to get out if I'm wrong, but looks like it wants to go higher, and this is a very good area to be analyzing it in. So thanks for putting it back on the radar.
Yeah, so you would rate this a buy?
Yeah.
Interesting where it's at, right? It does look like it wants to break that level and run higher. If you think what else is going on, essentially this is an AI crypto project, and AI is back in the news with ChatGPT making some fast updates. It's amazing how fast these updates are coming out with things that it can do. And so I think that's why it wants to run. I think there is some general bullishness in the crypto market coming in. So that combined with the AI in the news, because where can regular investors go and invest in AI? Well, they can invest in Apple, which has quite a bit of AI development on. They can invest in Google, but they can't invest in a lot of the startups out there. And so some of that money is flowing into the crypto AI projects. For me at this, man, I would say it's a buy as well, just because I think it is going to break that level. If I did buy at this level, though, I would put some stops down below it in case it does dump back down. I'd probably put stops in around 30, at about 34 cents. Let's jump over to the next one. What was Conflux, which the chart is looking really interesting.
Yeah. So again, not again, but on this one, this is one of the ones where I'd be asking you guys kind of what does it do? In terms of price action, wow, I wish we'd got onto this before, because it's got some really nice technicals, really good moves behind it. I don't think we've seen it before. I'm pretty sure this is the first time we've seen it. So anything that's had such a good run, I'm a little wary of. I don't mind buying a new high, but I'm a little wary that I'm a bit late to this party. This party's been happening, and I'm coming in, a little bit late. So for that reason, I'm just not sure. But overall, the trend is up. So technically, I can't fault it really. If something's going higher, that's not a reason to be against it. I should go with it. It's just that a lot of it has moved without me being part of it. So I would rate this a buy because the trend is up, and because I can't find anything negative to say other than it's come a long way in a short period of time, which means that we may see a bit of a correction at some point. But I don't know whether that's going to come in now or whether it's going to come up at 90 cents or wherever. So that's the thing about trend trading and technical analysis. You got to go with the trend, because you could have argued that here or here, and it's gone a lot further. Now, so these pullbacks are very clear. So you've got got wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4. We're moving into possibly what could be the wave 5 in Elliott wave terms, which is this other form of technical analysis, which would suggest that we would get a nice move and then a correction, a bigger correction, and then we move up again, which is all still bullish for the long term. So I think for me, unless we get significantly below 18 cents, the bias for me would be to the upside. Now, I would like to target this high at 1.68, $1.68. I think over the course of this year, that is achievable. I mean, given the rate that it's going, it could do it in the first half. But actually, let's have a look. What have I got? Yeah, it's against the US dollar. I thought for a moment that we were looking at something that wasn't the price against the US dollar, but that's fine. But yeah, so I rate it as buy. I think it's an interesting one. I'd like to know what they do, and I'd like to know what your take on it as well.
Yeah, this is another third generation blockchain. I'm going to share my screen here. I've got them on CoinMarketCap. For me, it's just a wait. Like I missed this one. And there was some news that came out and some other announcements. And so it's gone 20x. If you look at it recently, from where it was basically 2 cents, just above 2 cents, and it's gone to 45 cents and then pulled back to 40 cents. And I think it has more to run. And so there is some more upside to catch on a short swing trade. Now, my first crypto intern coming out of it, I did play some of those more than I do now. Now I'm generally more patient. I just take more long-term bets. That way I can hold across lots of things and not have to be checking every single one of them every day, which would drive me nuts. But my first time I was hungry enough and didn't have enough positions that I would take the risks on these shorter term trades. And in the short term, I think you're right. There's probably some more gains to be had. The volume there is tremendous. If you look at just this history, right, essentially no volume that you could see, and then a tiny tick up here, and then really the volume has kicked off, and volume. So now this could be the end of the run. It's had several steps up. If I go to logarithmic scale, you can see really 1, 2, and we're halfway through this run, and it's showing a little bit of weakness, but it might go all the way to 70 cents here, or it might go to 64 cents. It may come up closer to this previous high, and so you might be able to catch a little bit of a run. But for me personally, it's just a wait in that I'm looking for stuff somewhere near the lows. Maybe they've gone 2x and I'm starting to see them turn around. But a lot of the stuff I just buy cheap and then I patiently hold it. So on this one, I consider I missed it. And I'm not personally going to try to catch some of that run. I don't. I understand some people may want to try it, and there's no guarantees it will go higher. It just looks like it wants to go higher. Let's see what else we have. I think we got one more Fantom, and then we can jump to some of the viewer picks.
Yeah, so Fantom, that's been a constant one actually. We've looked at it a few times.
Yeah,
and it's good to keep an eye on it because it was in a consolidation. It's been going sideways and had this good run up here, which has come back down again. Broadly speaking, the chart is still bullish. It's bullish from March 2020. So, the overall trend has been up. I think we described it like that. This trend has been higher from March 2020, but obviously lower from October 21. So this looks like a corrective phase, a broad corrective phase. If I change it to a weekly chart, it may make it look a little clearer. The way the market's gone up here, then it's come back down again, and now it's getting ready for another move higher. And so I like that. I like the fact that it managed to hold support even when everything looked really bad, even when we were in the depths of the crypto ice age, and it's now turning back up again. So the pace of it, that's a really good first move. Bit of a deep correction, but it held support at 31 cents, which I think is an absolutely key level. So whilst it's above 31 cents, for me, it's a buy. I would stay with it. It's a very good pivotal level. If it comes back again, it should hold that as support. There'd have to be something fundamentally changing for me for it to break through 31 cents, having held it on this recent pullback. So I'm eyeing this move back up here again. There's a bit of resistance support that comes in around the 64 cents level. So if it can get through there, we'll be looking at a move up to this dollar, So, and I think it will get drawn towards that round number. So I'm bullish on it. I think we can draw a nice upward trend line as well. So if you wanted to play it from a longer term perspective, or if you wanted an indication as to whether to get out of it or not, I think as long as it's up above this trend line, for me, it will be in the buy category. Now, it might underperform some of the other ones, and I'm sure you may find some that are better and some that are worse. But overall, I think it should be in the mix. And so, thanks for pointing it out this week. It's a good one to look at.
Yeah, I like Fantom. I don't presently own any, and mostly because of the market cap range that it's in. Let me just share.
Is it too expensive?
Well, yeah, it is. It's a strong third generation blockchain. Now, when it was a small alt cap, I held a bunch of it, and I was excited about the future of it. And this is one of the downsides of exchanges, because the last bear market, so decentralization has really increased. Your ability to just hold things on, say, a Trust wallet or MetaMask wallet or on a ledger has really increased. There was that 3 and 4 years ago, but not to the same extent. So I had to actually liquidate my position because the exchange was risky. And so I had to move everything off the exchange. And unfortunately, I had a ton of Fantom because I believed in it and I thought it would have a bright future. I was absolutely right on that, but I had to move everything off that exchange. And so I end up selling and not getting these massive gains that then later happened with Fantom. So what I thought would happen with Fantom, it actually exceeded what I thought would happen with Fantom. It was something I was right on, but didn't get to actually benefit from it because of the concerns with the exchanges. And I know everyone today is like, oh, it's so easy. You just hold it on a MetaMask wallet. You don't understand what the last bear market was like. MetaMask was a new thing right at the end of the last bear market. Prior to that, there was this thing called My Ether wallet, and it was a pain. Did not have the easiness of what MetaMask or Trust wallets or other wallets have today. So back then I was holding most everything on different exchanges. So I missed out on the Fantom run. Am I going to buy in now? I mean, the chart looks good. I like what I'm seeing. I like where this one can go. It's just the market cap's here, and I'm investing in earlier stages of projects where they haven't realized as much of their potential, and so the potential swings to the upside are much higher. Fantom was one of those in the last cycle that I was very interested in because of that. But now its market cap is just outside of what I'm interested in. So for me, it's like, what do the charts tell me? Well, I'm bullish on what the charts are telling me. Am I personally buying it? No. But based on what the charts are telling me, it looks like a buy because a lot of money's coming into Bitcoin. A lot of that then usually flows to altcoins. Now, I don't currently know exactly how to weigh the U.S. regulators going after cryptocurrency and what impact that will have, because we have no pattern with the largest economy in the world, the regulators seemingly coming across as very anti-crypto in order to push a central bank digital currency. China did that a couple of years ago. And China is a big country and had a lot of power, and it slowed the market down a little bit. What the U.S., I don't know, with the whole banking failure and stuff, that's really playing out the importance of Bitcoin, which then leads to awareness of what all these other altcoins usually do. And so money generally flows in. So there's these two forces going like this. I think the bullishness is winning out, but I can't say I know the future. My magic crystal ball still isn't working. Let's check out. I want to go through the comments and hit up some of these. Let's see. Farron Pique Torres asked us to look at OneChain again. He asks every week. While you're pulling up the OneChain chart, I wanted to show what I'm impressed with OneChain. Obviously, I have a strategic relationship with OneChain. Maybe I'm even biased. I've been an investor with them for 4 years. We worked out the strategic relationship a little over a year ago, and I was very happy to partner with them. I say no to a lot of strategic partners or even potential sponsors. In fact, I say no to most all of them. OneChain was one I felt comfortable with because they're creating cross-chain compatibility, and I think their Xflows chart here really diagrams it really well. And Friday, I showed how they were able to send Bitcoin on Avalanche over to the Bitcoin network. So wrap Bitcoin here over to Bitcoin for extremely cheap. And they continue to add, like you'll be able to send Bitcoin from, say, Bitcoin over to wrap Bitcoin on either OneChain or on the BNB chain. And they continue to expand these networks. You can see USDC, you can send across all these different networks here. USDT has the most options, ETH. And so the vision of why I was initially interested in them to begin with is coming true. If you haven't already, just follow them on Twitter. My good friend Dub has done a bunch of videos with Dr. Ouija here, and I had a lot of fun last week catching up on a bunch of the videos they've done, explaining where their technology is at. I'm a fundamental investor, so I like to understand what is the big picture, what is the vision they're trying to realize, how on track towards that vision are they, and if their vision is realized, what could that do to the market cap? And so that's why I've been such a big fan of Wanchain. Let me pull up your chart so we can take a look at what you're seeing on price.
Yeah, so on the price, not much change from last week, really. I was bullish, I believe. I'm pretty sure I said it was a buy because we've got these rising lows, and that seems to be still the case. So we've got some rising lows. This is a little consolidatory in the sense that we haven't got a big breakout as yet, but I think that's coming. So I'd be willing to hold on to it from when we spoke about it last time. We got this downward trend line that has been breached, which means that the trend has changed, or it changed around the beginning of the year, which was similar to a lot of other altcoins and other markets. So it's playing with everything else, which is great. It's not like it's stuck down here. We're waiting for a secondary wave for it to be bought. It is looking and eyeing up some very key resistance. And if I had any reservations about it, it would be just that those resistance levels are hovering above around 34 cents. And a question of will it break through that? It would look great if it did. It would look really, really good on the chart. And that's why I liked it last week as a buy, because I was thinking if it gets through there, it's going to look even better. But the odds were that it was in this upward trend anyway. So, that's why I liked it. So as long as it holds this line, I'm bullish on it, and not a lot has changed from last week, other than it seems to have gone up a bit, which is nice. So we do really need this 34 cents level to get taken out, though, and the picture should look a lot clearer when that happens.
Yeah, great point. So if you were to rate this buy, wait, or sell, it's still a buy for you?
Yeah, still a buy. Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I think you mentioned earlier that you might look at it on a chart and say it's a buy, but not actually buy some yourself. And I think I just wanted to make the point that I'm not physically buying everything that I say I would buy here. So I may decide to or not, but I'm rating it on what the chart looks like, not whether I'm actually physically going to buy it or not.
Yeah, exactly. So Wanchain, for me at this price, it was juicy at 24 cents. 29 cents, I think people will look back and be like, wow, that was still cheap. For me, I like to buy near that lower trend line. And so for me, it's just a wait because of that. I like that lower trend line, and maybe it takes off from here and doesn't come back to that. And so, oh well. I do have Wanchain myself. For me, it's just a wait. Not that it's a bad price. Sometimes I just try to get that extra 10 or 20% with the same amount of purchasing power by waiting for it to come down, at least maybe not even touch that trend line, but close to it. So I love this project long term. If I were to say long term and you were going to just hold it for 2 or 3 years, if that was my ultimate plan, it is my ultimate plan, then it's a buy. But if you have the patience to watch it every day for the next few weeks, it might come back closer to that trend line. I'd say the chances are decent that it will, even if it's still going to run higher. Let's jump over to what else do we got?
Should we have a quick look at? Oh, I was just going to say, should we have a quick look at MATIC, because we had
let's
that
do it. Yeah.
Sorry to just jump in with that, but MATIC is one of those ones where every week I think, I really need to talk about MATIC, because it was always a good one in terms of the correction. It's had a really decent, rebound when everything else was pretty much going sideways. So this has been one of the stronger markets that I really like the idea of holding, and it's not far off. It's percentage terms, it's a massive way away from its all-time high, but compared to some of the others, it's a lot closer. So I really like this, and I've chosen to talk about it on a day when it's actually just going sideways. So overall it is still going sideways, but I think it's worth putting MATIC back on the radar every now and again, just because of its previous outperformance. And I think if it's stopped at this $1.50 level, but I think eventually if it takes that out, it's going to look so good for a run up to this $2.87 and beyond. So I like this very much from a long-term perspective. And I wouldn't worry. Well, my parachute out level would be around 94 cents. If it broke 94 cents, I'd be like, okay, I might have to look for other things. But yeah, so it held its gains, and that's why I like it. And it's also, it has a cleaner kind of upward trend compared to some of the other markets. It is taking a bit of a breather while everything else catches up, which is great. But this should be ready to move at some point and lead the way up. So just thought I'd drop that in.
Yeah, MATIC is one I really like, and I get why you like it. If I were in my third crypto cycle and I was just going for mostly the more secure plays, I would be loaded up on Polygon, Cardano. I would have bought Solana when it corrected down a little bit of it, not a ton, because I think the risk is higher. But Polygon, I really like for the long term, one of those blue chip plays that'll probably outperform like the NASDAQ by a lot, but underperform compared to some of the somewhat riskier plays that I'm taking. But that I had less worries that it was going to go to zero. So Polygon, I think you're brilliant to pay attention to, because I think the chances that it fails at this point are much lower than most altcoin projects. And the chances that it succeeds are decently high. They just announced another partnership. Interesting. I didn't see this coming with they're allowing their Ethereum virtual machine to interoperate with what is it? Immutable X. And so Immutable X just made that announcement, and that's another big announcement because kind of they're competitors, and it's nice to see them cooperating. Polygon, I think, makes a ton of smart decisions, and they have. I did benefit from their massive run up here. So I caught when they were a micro cap and almost nobody was paying attention to them. There were a few people talking about them all the time and benefited from their major run. I don't hold very much at all anymore, just because the market cap's so high and it just doesn't fit with my overall thesis. But if I were into large, the blue chips, absolutely this would be a buy for me. So at this price, I like it a lot, and you're great to be looking at it because it's on a pullback near that lower trend line, which is where I like to buy it. So great pick. All right, so a lot of questions about Bumper, and I guess they did an update. This comes from Eli here. Great video, Rain. Did you listen to Bumper's office hours update from the team last week? I did not. Feeling more bullish, bearish, or the same? Really keep an eye on this project. I haven't seen it, so can't. I did ask Eli what that was all about, and he said, I think eyeing a Q2 release, which is what he said when he came on our channel. I'm really bullish on this. There might be, wink, wink, a listing on a centralized exchange coming up. I don't know which one. They didn't tell me. They can't tell me. They can't tell us. But that one might be coming soon, which will be bullish. And Bumper's still really been low. It's hard to really trade these charts because the transaction volume is so low. Bumper is the one that most people in the crypto market don't even know exists. They don't know anything about this. This is what a possible diamond in the rough looks like. Now, whether ultimately they're going to be successful, I don't know for sure, right? Kind of like when I invested in Gods Unchained, when I was investing in Fantom. You don't realize the amount of people that told me and said how stupid Fantom was 3.5 years ago and how they were going to amount to nothing. And now it's big today. And all those people who were saying that probably aren't even in crypto anymore because they just were wrong too often and I think left the market. Now Bumper most people are not aware of it at all. We are, because a VC that does a lot of research connected me up to their white paper 2 years ago, and I read it and I was like, holy cow, am I getting this right? And I sent it to a friend of mine who was heavy into DeFi, and he said, holy cow too. And so I've been paying attention to them since then, inviting them on the channel at no cost to them whenever they want to come on, because I feel like if this happens, this will benefit our community so much. And that's why I paid so much attention to Bumper. Just know almost nobody is paying attention to Bumper right now, because they haven't heard of it, because they haven't done any marketing, unless the person with the YouTube channel happen to come across their white paper or understand what's going on here. They're just asleep to it. So even at these prices, like, I think it's a massive buy. It's not as cheap as it was. It was really, really cheap, but I like where the prices are at on Bumper. Let me just pull it up on CoinMarketCap. You can see the market cap at a $3 million market cap. Keep in mind that 20% of the supply is out there. So more supply will come into circulation. And there's some rewards right now if you're providing liquidity on Uniswap version 2. If you're looking for how to do that, go to Bumper's website. I am not good at the walkthroughs on how to do this technical stuff. Basically, I watch the videos and then do it myself. Teaching people how to do that, that's not my thing. I essentially watch the videos and then follow it step by step. I know I studied some computer science in school and everything, but that side of me the technical side has long been mostly asleep. So this stuff isn't always that easy for me to do either. But providing some liquidity there and then staking that to get some rewards means more circulation is coming in, and they continue to do different rewards, as well as when they're fully operational, they will be rewarding those that are putting up USDC, and those who are using it. People will get rewarded with Bumper, which is how more and more of their tokens will come into circulation. Overall, though, their market cap is 3 million. Where could this market cap go? If you remember, if you caught that interview, the big takeaway from that interview was Jonathan said, and Paul will know this, the industry standard for the equations for how to price options was Black-Scholes.
Yeah.
And he said they're 10% more efficient than Black-Scholes as far as what essentially protection costs.
Wow.
Versus the reward and stuff. And as they talk to people in your side of the industry about this, it just blows their mind. Wait, you came up with something that beats Black-Scholes? No way. Tell me more. In most of the crypto market is completely asleep to this, because we don't know what Black-Scholes is. Your side of the industry does. And there's a lot of interest from your side of the industry. Wait, what? Okay, show us. Prove us that this works. And they've run their tests over the last 2 months, and their tests show and prove that yes, it works, but it was just a test run. They don't have any true money at stake yet. And so they're going to roll it out so that people can protect their positions. The way it works is you can buy protection on your price. Say ETH is at $1,000. You can protect it the 850 level, the $900 level, or the $950 level. And you pay a premium depending on what you want to protect it at. And say ETH then takes a hit and you protect it at the 85% level. Once it hits that 85% level, it'll actually switch the ETH. It'll switch it into USDC. So if ETH keeps going down, that's okay. They already got the USDC and it's sitting here. And so the person who protect their position at any time can now cash it out, and they can get the USDC, right? So let me just broaden this. So they can get the USDC and be like, okay, well, shoot, I lost 15%, no big deal. They paid a little bit of premium in order to get that. But it doesn't stop them out, because if it then swings higher, they didn't get wicked out and they can still take the upside, unless they went ahead and just cashed in and said, okay, I'm going to take my protection out. And one of the advantages of if they take their protection out is, say it goes down, it swings really quickly down to 650. They could take their protection out, immediately buy it in at that cheap level, and have gotten a whole bunch more. And so they actually benefited from the decrease in price, because now they have way more ETH. And so you can also protect this is a great way for people like me that want to take further upside while protecting my downside. So say I buy ETH at $1,000 and I'm hoping ETH goes to $10,000. I can protect it at the 85% level, or say the 90% level. And then it goes to 1,500. I can close that position, reopen one at the 90% of the 1,500. Okay, it keeps going up. And so what that allows me to do is keep exploring the upside while protecting the downside, because as you know, in bull markets, especially with as volatile as crypto is, they swing up and then all of a sudden they swing down. And so one of the biggest challenges I had was cashing in too early, because I didn't have any other way to protect myself. So what Bumper is doing is going to be revolutionary if it works. And I suspect it's going to work, but it's if it works. And so a project like this can go to a market cap of billions. Let me just pull it up. Billions. So right now it's at 3 million. You'll probably have more come into circulation. But this could come to a market cap in the billions and tens of billions if what they're doing works, and then they start getting talked about on all the big channels. In fact, major institutional investors at some point start using them. Cool. That's my thoughts on Bumper. Obviously, I'm pretty passionate about that one. At this price, it's a buy. In fact, it saw a little bit of a correction here a little bit, which is great. In fact, it has corrected a lot. It ran up above 8 cents, so it's all the way down to 6 cents. I love it at this price. I picked up more. I did have to sell some around this price in order to sell it into USDC so I could provide some liquidity. And that's the only reason I sold it, is so I could provide some liquidity. Essentially, the rewards are so juicy from the providing liquidity. It will completely reward me with essentially about as much as I put in, or what I sold to put into USDC. I'll get about that same amount back over the 12 weeks or whatever that this incentive runs. And so I'll have increased my position. Say the price for the next 6 weeks stays around the same price, or the next, while they're doing this, I'll be able to buy back in. I'll have ended up with about 50% more Bumper. So made a lot of sense for me to do it. Okay. Daniel, hopefully that answered your question. Eli says goal is 100K Bumper tokens, hold and wait. Awesome. Why is Shiba Inu one of the top held exchanges tokens by exchanges, Rain? Because Shiba got so much meme attention, and that people knew nothing about crypto wanted to buy it, and the exchanges want to attract that trading volume. So they all listed it. And so meme coins can have traction, but the reason why I don't invest in meme coins is it's too hard to gauge what their future can look like. BitBoy made a compelling case of why the creator of Shiba Inu, who is anonymous, is actually Sam Bankman-Fried. That was fascinating. And one of the wallets behind the founder is linked to one of Sam Bankman-Fried's wallets, potentially. So that would be really interesting if he is what I forget, Hashoshi or something, that created Shiba Inu. I don't own any Shiba, and I'm not going to buy some personally.
Yeah, all I'd say about that is that the Mona Lisa is not the best piece of art in the world. It's the best known. Yeah. So some of it comes from marketing, and that's all it is. But in a bull market, that's fine. And in a bear market, those are the things that get hit the quickest. So, and if we think about what money is, what's it backed by? Nothing. You used to be able to take your dollars and convert them to gold. They were as good as gold, and so was silver for sterling silver in the UK. But now you can't.
It's funny why they had to do that, because there were so many currencies. Like the history of currency is there's been a bunch. Even in the U.S., states at first were making their own currencies in the U.S. And then they created a federal dollar and said, hey, we're backing this by gold, which was the use case that got a bunch of people to leave their state currencies behind and buy in, okay, it's backed by gold, which then what happens over time, just like the Romans, eventually, they were making their coins with silver, and then they started cutting the corners off and everything so that they could make the same coin, but with less silver. It's just politicians trying to spend more money than they take in. They eventually break the fiat currency, and which is why no fiat currency has lasted more than 200 years. It's because the politicians can't help themselves, because they can steal money from the future and spend it now for their gains now, and they're not going to be in office when the ramifications of that come about. At least they hope.
I wouldn't disagree with any of that.
Thank you, everyone, for the positive words. Jay and Paul, best freaking alpha on the interwebs. Super pumped on the live show. Glad I could catch this one. Abe said. Dougie Collins said, agree, Abe. Yeah, thank you guys for the kind words.
Thank you so much.
All right. Paul, anything else you want to bring up? Did I miss? There might have been one more suggestion to look at. I think we caught most of them. Oh, ANML. I don't want to look at Trader. Between Trader Joe and ANML from Ryan, let's just take a look at ANML. This is another one that I think it's on my list that I want to buy even more of, even though I own a bunch of it.
Yeah. 16th of March. That's not updating.
While you're looking at that, I'm pulling up on CoinMarketCap.
Okay.
It's extremely low. Not as low as it's still 2x from 3x from where the true bottom was.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that are going to bring metaverses, concerts to the different metaverses. So they have relationships with the celebrities. They have the know-how and a team that knows how to bring the metaverses, these concerts, and to sell the tickets and stuff. And I had them on again just a month and a half or 2 months ago, and I loved where they were at. So I'm really bullish on this project. It's just in those early cap stages where most people are totally unaware of them, unless you follow this channel. Don't know. I don't have a magic crystal ball to know if it's fully going to succeed. It has enough potential that I really, really like this one.
Yeah, I look. This is for me a technically, there's not a lot I can say about it. For some reason, it's not updating. We've got the 16th of March. Is that 16th? Yeah, 16th of March is the last update on this on CoinTrader Pro. But if I go into CoinMarketCap, we can get an up-to-date chart there that's not looking too different, but it's harder for me to read. So I'm going to go back to the animal concerts chart on CoinMarketCap, even though it's a couple of days out of date. Look, this could definitely be in some form of reversal. I like the fact that it's gone down, it's made this big dip, and it's in what could be the right shoulder of a head and shoulders reversal. So I think speculatively, given where it is, I may even just buy a small amount just because it's at such a low level. But it is very, very risky at this point, because if it doesn't hold this support, it's not going to look good if it starts to go much lower than this level here. So it needs to turn up. It needs to turn up soon. But if it does, if you wanted to wait a little bit, I'd understand that, because even if it takes out this resistance point, it would be a very interesting buy at that point. Oh, that's against Bitcoin. That's why. Oh, no wonder it's looking so. Let's put it on. Yeah. So actually, that makes a bit more sense. But it's done a very similar thing. It's hit its low. It's having a rebound, and actually, I think I like the fact that we looked at it against Bitcoin, because that gave a really interesting insight.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be going up soon, and it is. And it should also, for me, it's got to take out this. What's that? That 1.1 cents level. But it's a low enough level for me to think that it's a pretty good speculative buy. It needs to do a bit more technically for it for me to be comfortable with it. But I think that would mean for me just to take a smaller position and just sit back. But it's high risk, potentially high reward. And you've talked about the concept before, and it's a very interesting concept. So as people get more excited about the metaverse, have a look at the chart of Meta itself. That was one of the only things I would have suggested. You'll see that that's starting to fly. So there could be a lot of interest in this at some stage in the future. And you guys are here pretty early on, you know, and you're bringing this to me. I didn't know about this until you guys spoke about it. So that's why I think it's a very interesting community. So yeah, I'd be interested in buying some just from a speculative point of view. But technically, it does need to do a little bit more work to get out of a danger zone. But you know, you'd expect that for something that nobody's talking about.
Yeah, like we don't know what the market cap on this is because we don't know the, you know, even CoinMarketCap doesn't know what the circulating supply is. But if all the tokens were in circulation, the market cap would still only be 5.3 million. And this is the juicy range that, see, when money comes in the market, something like this could go 100x, and it could go a 200x, it could go 1,000x. If all of a sudden, you remember the metaverse pump when Facebook made that announcement, everyone was talking about these metaverses, and the world's kind of like, yeah, metaverses make sense, and they've kind of gone to sleep on that. But imagine when that comes back again, because it does, and then some of the big recording artists or musicians are then hosting concerts in some of these, and Animal Concerts has helped orchestrate that. Then people will, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of people that didn't know anything about Animal Concerts will be talking about it. And so that's when all of a sudden money starts really FOMOing into the project. Oh my gosh, they're putting on, oh my gosh, the metaverse, that's a big thing. And their market cap just balloons like crazy. And so that's what the bet is about. It's more about, okay, am I buying it cheap enough and then going to hold it? And even for people like, it doesn't fit within your overall thesis, but like kind of how you threw money in, a little bit of money into, what was it, Decentraland.
Yeah.
It's kind of like on this, it's just kind of like, I talked to a good friend and he's like, you know, I use my coffee money every day to throw into this small cap project and it's $10. So I was like, I would have spent it on coffee, but I just throw $10 in about every day. And if something happens on that, it's a project that could go to zero. It could go 500 or 1,000x. If it does, hey, great. And if it goes to zero, great. Animal Concerts is still early enough. It could go bust. They could run out of capital. You know, new ventures do that all the time. They run out of capital before their vision is realized, even when they have a good idea. So there's always a risk something like this goes to zero. If their vision gets realized, their market cap will go crazy compared to where it is, and that's kind of the bet. I forgot there was one comment I wanted to address, but maybe not in the way he was thinking. Right at the beginning, Justin asked if I went for the Platinum Moments drop, and this is related to VV's application or the OMI token. And so I'm going to pull up the OMI token. I didn't go for the drop, and the reason is there's a lot of hype in this, and it's a Disney platinum drop related to like 100 years of Disney and them celebrating that, and potentially there's some use case to this. So I am interested in them, but a lot of these drops come out and then they go down more. And what I did do is I did buy some more OMI token yesterday. Instead of buying at this drop and the price, I thought kind of like 2 years ago when the OMI token was high and it was trading at, you know, half a cent and then 1.4 cents. And then I wasn't buying the token. I was buying what I felt were the undervalued collectibles. Right now, I feel like between most of the collectibles, though they're low, the OMI token relatively is even lower. And so I'm more bullish on the OMI token than I am the collectibles at these prices. So I did buy more OMI token, not the collectibles. Now, where could this go? It could go further. This isn't a pattern. I expect you looking at this, Paul, you're like, this is not within your thesis at all. I see a bigger W that might play out. And what happens often with these Ws is it doesn't come like it puts in a higher low and then it comes up. I call them Ws because that's what they look like. And sometimes it comes all the way back to this midline before going higher. Now, there's no guarantee that this plays out, and this hasn't even necessarily stopped coming down here. but at anything under a 0.1 cents, I love OMI, and it fits within my trading thesis of how I do things, and my personality, because I don't like to check charts really often. I like to kind of set it and forget it until I hear the major crypto channels talking about things, and then I start visiting whether it's time to exit some of those positions. Is basically how I go. So what's your thoughts on the price where it's at?
Yeah, look, anybody can do their own analysis. It's not there's nothing set in stone, you know, and I'd be willing to look at, you know, what other people are seeing as well. I mean, for me, I just need it to come out of this consolidation, and it looked like we were doing that at this point here, but it fell back again. So we're back in the range. The moving averages are instructive in the sense that the price is still below the 200-day and the 60-day. That's not the end of the world. It's just consolidating. So it's gone sideways. So it's forming, I think, some form of base, which at some point, if it's a good project, it will get hoovered up, you know, and that's always the secondary phase of a bull market, where they look for the things that are good but haven't moved yet, because they're looking for value. So it needs a bit of acceleration for me to feel a bit more comfortable about buying it, but it's certainly at levels that are holding, which is a good sign. It's just it needs to go from holding to trending, and I feel a bit better when it's doing that. But I have a lot of sympathy for buying some at this level ahead of that move. It's just, you know, other things are moving, and therefore I'd be like, well, okay, I don't feel like I'm going to miss out tomorrow from buying this, but some of the others, they look a little bit more urgent at this point. But again, as we see, and you made the point, you know, very well, that when you set and forget something, that's often you've expressed your view. I feel like I'd be underweight this if it started moving, because from what you've spoken about, it seems like a really good project. So if like next Tuesday it starts booming up, I probably wouldn't look at it until, you know, we get to talk about it again. I think, oh, have I missed it? And I'll be buying it at a higher level. So it really depends on your outlook, but having a little bit of exposure to it for me, I think is a good idea. But the chart at this point isn't telling me that I'm about to miss something. I just need it to move beyond this resistance point, get over the 200-day moving average, and, you know, to break this 0.0012 area, which isn't far off what you were talking about.
Yeah, and it could come down in the very short term to even lower, which would be welcomed on my part, because probably I would pick up some more. But yeah, we did get an update from Bro. He says 25-point raise.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see what the markets are doing.
Yeah, let's.
Okay,
Thanks
so
for that update, so we can jump in and see. Some people specifically trade Bitcoin, and they trade actually some stocks based on what the Fed's news is. So it'd be interesting to see live what these are doing.
Yeah. I mean, usually the first move is the wrong move. It's not a lot's happening right now. We've got, unless that's slightly delayed. Let's just check. Don't think it is. No, it shouldn't be.
So you're just looking at the percent change on the right.
Yeah, just, you know, it's up 30. So
will you go ahead and click on it for those watching on their phone? That way they can see the bigger picture.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, look, if we didn't know it was a Fed day, that would just look like it's bouncing higher. So yeah, it's starting to move up. I'm always wary of the split second view, you know, because you often get a fake out where the market goes for that, you know, 20, 30 seconds, it goes in the wrong direction and then moves back up again. So maybe it went down and then it's going back up. But so far, so good. So far, it looks okay. Let's see what the dollar's doing. Let's see what Bitcoin's doing. That's up. Yeah, that's holding its gains. Dollar seems to be going down, that's good as well. So, you know, yeah, nice move down. So that's looking good. What's ETH doing? Nice. Let's have a look at ETH. That's hopefully not. Well, actually, it's still hanging around there. So maybe that'll move a bit later. It's a bit sticky here, isn't it? It's not just not wanting to move. Bitcoin's up, it's holding at virtually flat. So in some ways, they've got to come back and pick up some ETH. But I'd like to see that get through that 2031 level, or at least squeeze towards it. So there's nothing stopping it now. Look, here we go, up 90. So yeah, look, it looks like we got the risk on that we wanted. So it should be a great week.
Great points. Do you have 6 more minutes? There's 2 more I want to go into. If not, I'll just ask the viewers to put them in the comments so we can talk about it next week. If you have 6 more minutes, do you mind if we jump into them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So one that we've talked about a lot is Immutable X, and I just saw their vesting schedule. And so this was what I was concerned about with Immutable X, even though it's ran up, and they did just do a big announcement, their announcement with Polygon. I've been looking to re-enter this, and it did touch down at this really low, a very attractive price, around 38 cents there. Let me see. 38 cents. And I missed that entry, and that definitely would have been good enough. I entered it, but it ran up. But I saw their vesting schedule, and it's still a very aggressive vesting schedule where there's a lot of tokens vesting to their early investors that puts a lot of downward price pressure. So I'm thinking there's a strong chance I'll get another solid bite at the apple at a much cheaper price than this. Might not happen because I'm very bullish on their future, but that does put downward price pressure. Now, if the whole market takes off from here, I won't get a chance really anywhere near that 38 cents level again. Probably won't even come back to double that. Why? Because everything will go up, and that's all right. I'll be satisfied with some other positions I had, and Mutable X will go up like crazy. It just won't go up quite as high because a lot of those pre-sale investors are still in profit at these prices, and they're selling. I think the pre-sale price might have been as low as like 5 or 10 or 40 cents. I don't remember, and so they're all very much in profit. So as those tokens come out, a lot of them just turn around and sell, which puts downward price pressure on it. So a lot of what I've been doing is investing in stuff where a lot of the tokens have already vested. Immutable X is one I'm highly interested in, even though they still have only a fraction of theirs. In fact, we can look up what percentage is vested, but something to be concerned about. So getting, 43% of their tokens are vested, but still there's a lot of price pressure on that. So something to be cautious about, even though I'm bullish on it. And then they, one of our viewers, who was it, asked us to look at Illuvium. There we go. Abe asked us to look at Illuvium. And this is one of the gaming projects I really like. And it's come back down to what I feel is a pretty attractive price. I was looking at this morning whether to buy some, and I'm right on the fence that I want to buy some more, because I think my dollar cost average price is a little bit higher than this, but it's definitely in that range that I like. Down in this range, at this $60 price or below is where I love it.
Okay, so I'll start with Immutable X then, if that's okay. Yeah, so I do remember we were talking about this, and I think my view was bullish because we were making or had made an inverse head and shoulders. So this is the main downward trend. We got the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder was forming, and got a sharp move correction, and then it's gone through it. So I think we were looking for a move through this key resistance point, which is at $1.27. It's done it. It's come back for a retest. Yeah, it may dip a little bit below, but it shouldn't dip too much below. It should just go back up again. So, the downside risk is it goes to this trend line. So if you were wanting to be cautious, you could wait for a touch of that. But overall, this is in a bullish phase. This is a reversal pattern. I know the fundamentals might not necessarily support it going much higher because it's already a high cap, but to me, technically, it's still looking good. So I have to go with this technical pattern. A lot of resistance at $1.50, which I'm not sure where that came about, possibly from over here. So very resistant to get beyond that. quite a sharp move into the support, but there should be a lot of support around here, given that there was a lot of resistance on the way up. So that's why I'm saying I like it at these levels. But with some of these markets, it's also difficult because they are quite volatile. So I can't rule out going lower. I just wouldn't worry about it unless it broke this upward trend line, because I think it's still developing to the upside. So for me, it would be a hold because it was a buy before. Would I buy it here? Yeah, I would buy it here. I just have to have a bit of a bigger stop and a longer term time frame. So yeah, I'd consider it an investment buy as opposed to a sort of trading short term buy. And in terms of Illuvium, again, I think this is one where I do like it, and we've talked about it before in terms of it making its first move, coming back, finding support. It's now working its way up. I'm not sure about loading up as yet. I mean, it could just go straight up, but it looks like it's in a consolidation phase, and I'm not sure when that will be over. But I like to buy things as they're moving higher. I know that might sound contrary. That's literally the reverse of what Jay does. He likes to see things go lower. But I like the market to be confirming that my bullish view is correct. And if you reverse this and think we could say that this is a base and it could be going up, then look at how far the market can go when it's trending. So that's why I'm thinking if this is a base, even if I was to wait for it to break through $105, which you might think I'd be crazy to do, there may still be $400 of a trend on the upside. So it always feels like you're buying too high when the market is trending in your direction. As long as you're not buying into a load of, hype, you've got to be very careful about that. And I don't think there's ever a lot of hype on this channel. So we try to be as measured as possible. So for me, I think I'd be happy to buy a bit more, but I'm not necessarily saying it's a load the boat time, which may come in the future. So I want to see it clear this 91 level at very least, because that's where it found previous resistance. But yeah, other than that, it's still a buy. It's just not an aggressive buy for me as yet.
Good. Yeah. When it hits those points, that's when Paul's like, load the boats. And I like that you offer a different trading strategy than mine so that the viewers get a chance to see the different types of strategies they're at. So maybe they like the way I do it. Maybe they like the way you do it. Maybe some kind of hybrid or something. Is a lot of people tuning into this channel, they're new to this type of stuff within the last year or 2 years. And so just having people that have some experience, teaching them about the different ways to approach this problem of how do you buy lower so that it can go higher, and what are the different strategies to that while mitigating your risks.
Yeah.
And what they're learning to be as a seasoned investor. And I feel like there's definitely different personalities, and with different personalities fits different strategies better. Like my type of personality is I can't check the price every day. It causes me too much stress. And so I'm kind of like, what I've settled on that works great for me is buying generally a project that I think fundamentally is strong, but isn't getting talked about a lot right now. And then I wait till it is talked about a whole lot, and then I take profits into that. That approach for a lot of people doesn't work because they just want more action. They want more things. Your approach is very sound and proven the test of time. There's a lot of smart people that take your exact approaches. I'm going to wait till the charts confirm it. And there's certain points I'm going to buy a little bit, and I'm going to buy some more. And at certain signs I see in the market, I'm going to load the boat. And so I missed some of the swing. That's okay. I don't need to buy at the lows. I'm going to take the swing from here to here, because I feel like the risk versus the reward works out strongly in my favor. And that's when I load the boats, which is a great approach too.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. In the audience, if you would do us all a solid and hit that thumbs up button, we appreciate that. That'll just help us get some traction. So when momentum comes in the market, we do want to grow the family. My goal isn't to be like 1.5 million subscribers. I think 500,000 would be the most I'd like to get to. And beyond that, like, I think we'd have too much sway in the market unless the major channels have 10 million or 20 million. But do help us grow the family a little bit. We're particularly looking for growing smart, thoughtful people, and not the like FOMO, panic sell type people. And though some people might come in initially think that way, we're hoping to show them a different way of thinking about it and growing a thoughtful, like calculated Rainmaker family. Thanks so much, Paul, for joining us. Thank you, everyone in the audience.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All right. This rap, you guys know what this is about. I wrote the words of this. Charlie in the UK performed it. Just have fun with this rap. It's just to reinforce the principles we talk about every week.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road cause soon will come a bear market. We're learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be cracking. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.